Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about the future of sales. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, product innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And my guest today, I have a very special guest called Adam. Hi, Adam.
Adi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Adam Rosen is the co-founder of email outreach company. Adam loves talking entrepreneurship, sales, startups, personal growth, and meeting genuine people that are on their way of growing journey. Yeah, that's me. I hope. I hope. We're
I
live on
think
LinkedIn.
so.
I hope we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join and ask questions and talk with us. Wow, today we have a very heavy. I feel like sales is always a heavy stuff because like there are numbers and there are like KPIs and you need to read them. It's like, so what is the main challenge for a salesperson today?
Yeah, and first, I want to thank you for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on here. Love the work that you do. So thank you first and foremost. So I think the number one biggest challenge, and this is just, I always think consistent with salespeople, because it's even what you just shared in the beginning, is part of it is just the mindset. Like when
Yeah,
people look at sales, whether you're a business owner, maybe you're just getting into the sales profession, maybe you've been in the sales profession, maybe you're not in the sales profession, but it has this stigma attached to it.
yeah,
And at least people in the States where I'm from, they think of it, and I feel bad for car salesmen because they get a bad rap with this, but
yeah,
they,
right.
yeah, they think of like a used car salesperson with the slick back hair trying to convince you to buy something that you don't want or don't need, which is
Yeah,
not the case of sales. That is the opposite of sales. Sure, there are people that do that, that try to pull the wool over your eyes, but that is not what sales is at its best. So I feel like that's the first thing right off the
yeah,
bat is the stigma that's associated with it. But more related to today, I feel like the biggest challenge, because so much of not just sales, but business is virtual.
right.
And so much of sales is around failing, falling down, and trying to get back up. And when you're just behind your computer all day and you're not around your team, you're not around other coworkers, you're not around other salespeople that are also going through those highs and those lows, you have to be extra internally motivated in order to go through the inevitable highs, but more importantly, the lows that does come about if you're in the sales profession.
Yeah. Do you think it's harder to sell when you don't really meet the people and you have a coffee together and meet them in person live?
Yeah, you can never replace face to face. Like face to face forever. I don't care. Uh, we all know where technology is going. Well, we don't know where exactly technology is going, but we
Yeah.
just know it's not going anywhere. So technology is only going to exponentially increase with time. But even with that, we will still never be able to replace face to face and the power of face to face. So, yeah, there are some challenges, but it does give you an opportunity to connect with more people because of what we're doing right now, which is this virtual connection, which,
Right.
just a few years ago, even doing this virtual podcast was a pretty rare thing. So, yeah, there are some challenges, but you can still get in person with people if you really want to. And there's just other ways to sell now that probably didn't exist not too long ago.
Do you think that salespeople need to have these like more subtle discussions, serendipitous discussion about what's going on and not being only strictly like we have a sales meeting and just letting to know each other what's going on in order to really not feel alone in that?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, we all know the saying, people only buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And we want to be able to get to know someone at a deeper level. Now, I do think that's secondary because if I have a problem or I have a need and you have a solution to my problem or my need, that's what's most important. And what can come from that though is a deeper connection. We get to know each other more. We find commonalities. Maybe that helps with expansion. Maybe that helps with you saying, you know what, Adam, I really like you. I want to introduce you to X, Y, and Z that can help take your business to the next level. So I always think with sales, sometimes we lean too much on trying to create commonality. I always like to lead with the value, lead with the solution to their problem, But as people get to know ourselves a little more, that's when there can be growth opportunities, referral opportunities, etc. But I always like to lead with, "Hey, I have a problem. Do you have a solution? If not, that's okay. But you're busy and I'm busy. Let's move on."
You know, you mentioned that you come from the States, and I'm from Israel. And I always feel like people from the States, like the Americans are so good in sales. It's like it's imprinted in them in childhood. I don't know how. Do you feel the same as an American?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there I know there are amazing salespeople in the States, and it is probably more part of the culture, even just with entrepreneurship, which is so ingrained in the American culture. So in order to be an entrepreneur, I don't care what you are starting, whether it's a tech company, whether it's a bakery, whether it's anything in between. If you don't know how to sell, your business will go out of business. You either got to learn how to sell or you got to find someone that knows how to sell. So
Yeah.
because entrepreneurship is so ingrained in this culture, I do think it is a big part of probably people in America. But just like with anything, part of stereotypes might be true, but there's a lot of people in the States that don't like sales or think that it's
Yeah, of course.
a negative stereotype as well. But I would say probably because American culture is so deeply rooted in entrepreneurship, it probably is a more sales focused culture than others.
Yeah, I feel that I think that Americans feel very comfortable talking about money more than Israelis as I see it, which is very important for sales, right? In the end, you should talk about business. And another thing, I think that you were very polite. Like in the beginning, that you said, thank you for, like most of my guests would not say, be that polite as you are. So it's like two things that you have in you. And it's not all Americans. Many of the Americans do have that. And I think that you've been like only a few days in Israel, but people in Israel are very upfront and sometimes a bit rude. They're not that courteous as the Americans, right? And I think that in many cases, when you see entrepreneurs trying to enter the American market, it's so hard for them. It's like it's almost impossible because they don't understand the way they think and the way they communicate and what they expect from a sales meeting, right?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time now traveling the world where really is back in last November. November 21 is when I most recently was living in New York, but I bounced around in the States, New York, Boston, Hawaii primarily were the three main places I had lived. But since November, I've been starting to bounce around the world as I've been building my online business, and I continue to do so. And one of the greatest gifts for me in terms of a learning has been meeting different people in different cultures and just seeing how they go about living. What do they value? What do they not value as much? Because it makes you rethink. Me, I grew up in New York. I grew up about 45 miles north of New York City. That was like the culture. I thought everybody lived that way. The fast pace, just business, money, all that stuff. I thought that was how everybody lived. And as you
Right.
leave, not just the state or the city, but the country, and you go to these different countries, you really do get to learn about how different people do business, what they value, and it's such a learning. Because if you can mix all that stuff together, I think that's where you can really have
Yeah.
all the special gifts of life.
Could you give us an example of what you learned in a different country?
Yeah, I was in Italy and spending most of my time in Florence in November. I was there for about a month, and I started to develop some really good relationships with some of the locals there. And I remember one of the locals, I believe it's him and his wife. They ran it's like a little lounge club type area. So they had a small restaurant, but mainly it was like drinks and nightclub type of thing, but like a small
Yeah.
lounge, you relaxed. And we became friends, my business partner and I, with the two owners. And I was so amazed because as they're making my drink, it would take them like 20 minutes to make one drink. And it's not that they were being lazy. They just poured so much love, wanting it to be the greatest drink in the world. And I'm over there thinking, I'm like in New York, they would want to make this drink so fast. Why? The faster they make the drink, the faster I can drink the drink, the faster they can have another drink. So they're just taking their time. They want it to be so beautiful, so perfect. They want to make sure we're having such a great time. They're dancing, they're eating a sandwich, dancing with like fist pumping with the sandwich in the air. They just don't care about the money. All they cared about was that everybody there felt like family and was having the best time ever. Money was secondary at best. So for them, it was not about making every dollar they could. It was giving the best possible experience to everybody. So that was a big culture
Yeah.
shock for me. Probably my first culture shock, one of my first culture shocks, I should say, as I started traveling.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Like Israel is a very paced place, and when I travel, it always seems to me that people speak really, really slow, like in slow motion, and they walk in the street really slow. Like what's going on? Like we're going, right? And we've been like a few years back, we've been to Africa, and there it's like really, really chill, right? And when I came back, it was like 2 months or something in Africa, and then it's like why people are screaming so fast. It's like it's a shock to come back and just to see where you are most of your life, located in this very messy, fast-paced environment, which is like wow. So tell me about your online business. I know that you're doing cold emails outreach, right? So tell me about that. Why did you come to do that and not other things?
Yeah, I had a tech startup for about 5 years. I started it right before I graduated college, had it for 5 years, sold it in 2019 to a college marketing firm. And what we basically did was we built a platform for college student organizations, and then we would sell into companies like Bank of America, Amazon, Apple, a lot of these large enterprises in the States. They want to recruit the students as well as host surveys to our students on the platform. And what we did better than anything else while running that company was getting new business, some of those big brands I just mentioned. And how we got all of those customers was from cold email. So we would cold email these potential clients, we get on phone calls, and then we would, try to, get the new business. As we sold the company, I started to do a lot of work with startups and small businesses. And one of the problems I saw consistent was that companies struggle to get new business opportunities. So one of the startups that I've been advising asked me to speak to his head of sales because she was struggling to get meetings on the books. I talked to her. I found out what the issue was. I went back to their CEO. I said, hey, if you want, I can get you more sales appointments, and I could do it through cold email. So that's when I called them my business partner. We built out our first version of email outreach company, and we've been growing and going strong ever since.
Wow, that's a good story. But tell me, don't you think it's really hard to overcome this huge amount of emails that you need to be focused on your emails while you have so many other things to do and other emails to tend to? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's part of what we've had to make such a focus on over the past year is focusing on systems. It was one of the things that we didn't do, and I didn't do a great job of with my tech startup, was building really strong systems, not just for myself to be able to implement, but also so that a team could just step in there and implement the systems that I created. And that's been the biggest focus, spending so much time in this business to create repeatable systems that not just I could use or my co-founder could use, but our team could use and implement to make sure that, yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on every right now in the email inbox as we speak. There's a ton of stuff going on, but I have no concern in the world. I could go to the beach today and I will not have a concern in the world because I know that I have a really good team that's able to implement these systems that we've created to make sure that everything goes smoothly and runs as planned. But it took a lot of time and a lot of manual effort on my part to be in the weeds, as they call it, of the business to make sure that those systems can be built.
And what about copywriting, which is so important? How do you, what's the title? What's the text? You know, it's so hard to really create something which is creative and still engaging, and you cannot do it like in templates, right? Or can you? I don't know.
Yeah, we've at this point created hundreds and hundreds of templates, both for a first email, but also we do eight follow-up emails, I should say, after we send that first email. So every campaign we do for ourselves or for our customers is a 9-point campaign. So we have all these different templates that we used, and I've done a lot of bad emails in the past. Whether it was in college when I first started emailing, cold email, if you want to call it, to running my startup. So I had to learn the hard way of what doesn't work to learn what does work. So we have a good system that we follow that's able to book meetings for really any customer or any industry, I should say. So yeah, it took a lot of trial and error to get to where we are today, but we're in a good spot right now in terms of knowing what emails resonate with folks across the board.
And is it all emails, or do you have landing pages or a connection to Facebook, other social?
Everything is email. So we pretend like we're a client. So we get an alias, an email for them, and we manage the whole inbox, pretend like we're them. And then just when a potential customer wants to talk to them, we just book the meeting on their calendar. So they don't have to do any of that other work. All they have to worry about is showing up to the sales appointment and hopefully, doing a good job of selling their product or service.
Yeah, it sounds like you're solving a really big problem for so many businesses. Is it mainly for smaller or medium businesses or not?
At first, it was just for startups, but now as we started to talk to more of these larger enterprises, now we're starting to land some of these larger enterprises, and we have some very big companies that are interested now in working with us too. So at first, it was all for startups. Our smallest startup has literally just the co-founder. That's it, and she's been doing a great job. She's closed 15 deals over the past 4 to 5 months. So we started with small companies like that to 10, 15 person startups, but now we're starting to work with larger companies because, to your point, the need is really across the board. Everyone needs more sales at bats, especially as times, with the economy, at least in the U.S., that are struggling. It's more important than ever right now to get those sales at bats.
Yeah, we're talking about sales, but actually it's part of marketing, and the boundaries between sales and marketing is changing. How do you see that thing? Like, would you say it's a marketing, it's a sales thing? What would you say?
Yeah, it's really more demand generation. So you could call it more on the marketing side of the house. It's creating demand. So getting potential buyers to a phone call with you. It's less sales until we get more into sales consulting, where we'll work with some clients that we coach on how to close those opportunities they're getting. But yeah, it's primarily on the marketing side to just get you those at bats.
Yeah. And do you think that some of these like emails work differently in different domains or different clients or different people that you send it to? What do you think is best working for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people will say, well, I don't have a great, no one knows my brand. I don't have a well-known brand. So why would anybody respond to my email? And that's when I point to that one person startup. Nobody knows her brand, or really very few people know her brand. Now it's starting to get out there a little bit, but she's a baby startup with just herself. And we landed 34 sales appointments for her last month alone. And nobody knows her brand. My tech startup that we had, we weren't the most well-known company, especially at first. So yes, of course, if you have a big, sexy, glamorous brand, that will help. But no, as long as you know how to email, it can work for any domain, any brand. It's just about doing the basics and doing them really well.
Yeah. And do you think that that companies should focus on one channel, for example, emails or social or LinkedIn or whatever, or they need to do everything? Because, like to be a very good marketing person, you need to be always learning, always growing. It's like endless.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it depends on the size of the company. If you're a baby startup and you have limited resources, then you have to focus on what you can focus on, which is going to be limited. Now, if you're a big company and you got hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of employees, then yes, you should be focused on social media. You should be focused on Google SEO. You should be focused on cold email. You should be focused on doing newspapers or billboards or Spotify ads or anything. Like, you should be doing a little bit of everything. But when you're a small company, you really got to pick and choose what's going to be most valuable. So, like for me and my company, what we focus on is when we try to get new business for us, we use our own product, cold email outreach company, to get sales appointments for us. And we also focus on LinkedIn because we found LinkedIn is also a good way to let people know about who we are, and it's where our buyers are. But right now, at least, we don't spend any time doing anything on Google. We don't spend any time doing anything on Facebook. We're narrowed in on those two areas because that's what yields the best results.
Yeah. So how should corporates optimize their sales strategy? How do they know where to go to? Like trying everything and see how it goes?
Yeah, well, in terms of sales strategy, so I think of that more as, okay, assuming you get those at bats, assuming you're getting your 10 calls. Let's say you get 10 calls in a week. How many of those calls are advancing into a second call? How many of those calls are advancing into a third call? How many of those calls are advancing into a verbal? How many of those calls are advancing into a closed deal? So I would just be looking at the numbers of, okay, why are more of these calls not moving forward? What is going on in these calls? Am I listening back to these calls and seeing that certain words or certain phrases are resonating or are not resonating? So I would be looking at the funnel. Again, how many people am I getting on a phone call? How many people are advancing? How many people are buying? And then what is that gap? How can we improve those numbers? So instead of 10 calls leading into one sale, how can we improve it so maybe 10 calls leads into two sales? So I would just be looking at what are the systems, as well as what's the sales approach that's leading to either strong results or leading to results that aren't quite where you want them.
So what you're saying is maybe monitoring and keeping up the numbers all the time, just knowing all the time where you are. I think that maybe medium companies are always aware and they have these systems and everything is like written, and sometimes you know exactly what's wrong. Maybe you know exactly who is the salesperson that you need to train more or not. Sometimes you don't know that, right? You need to have all the system that you assign someone to it, and then he tells you if it worked or not, or like what would you do if you don't have all these like Salesforce stuff?
Yeah, if you're a small startup, you have to constantly be looking inward and thinking about what do I need to do to improve? Because as you're a young company, the battle is always how do I get to product market fit? And what do I mean by product market fit? That's somebody that is not only willing to buy your product or service once, but are they willing to buy it over and over and over again? That was my biggest challenge with my tech startup. That's been the greatest win with my current company is not only have people bought, but we've never lost a customer. In fact, they've all expanded with us. And that's the battle for every new company is how do you get someone to buy once, but then more importantly, how do you prove enough value where they want to buy from you over and over and over again? So as a startup, you have to constantly be looking inward. It does help if you have a trusted confidant who understands sales, who has been an entrepreneur that can mentor you or advise you on what are some things that you can improve to get people through the finish line. Because I always say every sale is a minor miracle. And I feel like we don't give enough credit, especially to these small companies. Every sale you get should be celebrated. And how do you replicate that to get more of those sales in the future?
Yeah, what you're mentioning is like introspection, I guess, which is so
Mhm.
important. And I think that some entrepreneurs are less aware of these soft skills that are needed. They're more oriented. I come from tech, so they're very oriented to the technology and what they're going to
Mhm.
build, and less oriented to other stuff. How do you see entrepreneurship, and what is needed in order to be successful in that?
Yeah, one is you have to build a great offering, a great product, a great service, and really building out what is that foundational piece that does solve a real problem. Especially now, again, as the economy, at least in the United States, is in not such a great spot to say the least. It's more important than ever to not have a nice to have product. You must have a must have product. You must be clear on how you are solving a problem, solving a need, improving the ROI of your customer. So you got to have that great product. You have to have great systems that can allow you to scale or grow this without you feeling like you got to bang your head against the wall. And then the third piece though is you got to have a sales engine. I see so many companies that have a great product. They've spent so long working on their product. One startup I know of, an amazing product. They've put so much money into their product for 2 years, but they don't have a single customer, not a single customer. So what they did was they built this product to scratch their own ego, to say, hey, I would love this. I think this is great. I think this is great. But you know what? The market doesn't think it's great, or at least not yet. So you should always be trying to get new customers because they will be the greatest tool for you building a product that will actually get to true product market fit. We never would have got to product market fit like we are today if it wasn't for our early beta customers that worked through those initial kinks and allowed us to build all these systems to make it valuable over the past 14, 15 months now.
Yeah, I would say even more than that. If you're building 2 years, it means that you're doing it wrong because,
Mhm.
I come from product. So I know that you need to build something which is a very slim version and you go and get feedback and then you build something which is really good. If not, you're just in your head. It could be good, but in many cases it wouldn't be because you're not talking to the person who needs to use it in the end. And maybe he needs a different thing or
Mhm.
somewhat different experience than what you offer. So it doesn't make sense to do that, even if you're just focusing on the product. So
Exactly.
it doesn't make sense. So what do you think that when companies come to you and tell me about the process? They tell you this is the company, or they just it's a sales service. They're doing whatever they want, or they're telling you exactly what they need, and they get a personalized template for them.
Yeah, it's really simple on our end. It's somebody comes to us and they say, "Hey, I need more sales appointments. I'm not getting enough sales appointments." And we ask them, "Great. Well, what type of customers are you looking to attract? How many of those potential customers exist?" And we're able to build out the email sequences and do all that work for them. So it's a really simple onboarding process. The biggest thing is, do they have a need? So are they not getting enough sales appointments that they want? And then who is their market? Who are they going after? And then obviously in a very simplified way, we're able to do that for them.
So how do you think would the future of sales look like? And would it be different for B2B and B2C? What do you think?
I think sales at the end of the day will always uh, be the same as it's been for the last several hundred, several thousand years. It's always been, I have a problem or I have a need, and do you have a solution? And how are you able to solve this problem for me? The basics of sales, I don't think will ever go away. Now, how we might get people to our door to make that sale, that of course can change. It used to be you would just knock on doors and sell door to door. Now that very rarely happens. Then it was all about social media or Google, and then it was about cold email or texting or or billboards or Spotify ads or other streaming ad services or Hulu. And who knows what the future will add in terms of creating demand. But in terms of closing business and getting sales, it's always going to be the same. It's always, do I know, like, and trust you? And most importantly, are you able to solve my problem? And are you able to do it more efficiently than I could do it on my own?
Yeah. So what you're saying that the marketing side could be elaborated and being more techy, and but in the end, people need to talk and see that they understand each other.
Exactly. And the marketing, again, is all geared around, yes, you want to get someone's attention. That's a lot of what marketing is. It's why Super Bowl ads go for so much money. And they're all about just grabbing your attention, and why you'll see some of these extravagant ads that, whether it's on Facebook or even through email, that just try to grab your attention. But once you're able to get someone's attention, it's all about, again, do I feel like I know, like, and trust you? Do I trust that you can execute on what you say you can execute on? And is that thing you say you can execute on actually going to solve a problem that I have?
But wouldn't you say that it's more relevant to a B2B company? Like a B2C would need to place more efforts on their marketing than on sales in that case, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You're not going to be selling individually to, if you're trying to get hundreds of thousands of users, you're not going to be speaking to those hundreds of thousands of users to buy, it might be a $10 a month product. So yeah, the marketing will speak a little bit differently, but the whole thing again is the same. Do I feel like I trust that you can solve a problem or a need that I have as a consumer, whether it's B2B or B2C? The marketing of it, of course, will change, but the fundamentals of somebody buying something is all very consistent, and has been consistent and will continue to be consistent.
Do you think that we need to use more maybe videos in our emails in order to be more personal, or text is enough as it was in the past?
What I found is, at least from cold email, and I did a full breakdown on, we all get terrible cold emails every day that make us, want to pull our hair out. And I received one, and I did kind of a breakdown on what was not effective about it. And one of the things that he did was he put a picture in there. And it's great. I'm not against necessarily putting pictures, but the problem with putting pictures or videos, at least in a cold ad or a cold email, I should say, is it does decrease the chances that your email will end up in the inbox. So Google has all these different spam filters in there. And one of the things that they look for is it a video or a picture. Plain text emails tend to get the highest deliverability. So I like to stay away from that. My emails are very simple. It's all direct to the point, all plain text. It's nothing fancy. It's all just simple, direct to the point, making it easy for that person to read it. If this is a problem or challenge that they have, great, let's talk. If it's not, let me know and I'll stop reaching out to you. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's very to the point, because what I have in mind is I know the name of the company, ClickFunnels.
ClickFunnels. Yep.
Yeah, for example. So I heard about them and I know them. So he talks. What's his name? What's the name of the guy?
I can see his face, but I can't remember his name right now.
I forgot. I know. Like when we finish, I'll have his name.
Yep.
So this guy from ClickFunnels, he talks about these funnels that are built from emails and from landing pages and from videos, right? And he's very salesy is the way that he does it, and I think that he's talking mainly for B2C. Actually, he's not talking B2B, and he's not related to B2B as I see it. So do you think that in some cases or for some brands it will be less relevant? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I think everybody, as long as you're being authentic, like some people take the ClickFunnels approach and that works really well. Like there are those people that do a great job and they sell a lot and, to use your words, more salesy. And I think we can all feel that. And there's an audience for that. I think it's again just being true to your brand and being authentic to your brand. For me, that doesn't feel good for me, so I don't want to take that approach. But for other people, that approach can work. It's just about being authentic to you and your approach. And as long as you're consistent, you'll be able to find an audience that resonates as long as you're actually solving a problem or a need in some way.
I see. Now I have like a missing name, like it will be here in my mind. What do you think that marketing and sales leaders need to know in order to lead their company to the future?
Sharing to what I just mentioned earlier, not forgetting the basics, not forgetting the fundamentals that have always worked over time. So for me, it's just always going back to the basics, whether it's marketing or whether it's sales, while staying up to date with the innovations and efficiencies. Like I do a lot of coaching with small business owners. I teach a class. It's actually every Monday evening through an amazing company that supports small business owners in the United States called Eureka. And one of the things that I'm always stressing is how do you create or how do you leverage simple technology to create efficiency for you, whether it's using tools like a Zapier that are basically just a communication system between two tools. How do you leverage efficiencies and leverage technology to make your life easier, whether you're in sales or marketing? But at the end of the day, the basics of why people buy, the psychology of why people buy, the psychology of why people trust other people, as long as we keep that as our foundation while leveraging the great technologies that exist, that's the real mix, in my opinion, that will take any great sales or marketing leader to the next level as technology continues to expand.
What about building the email list before you send it? How do you get the emails, to reach these people? And do you think it should be very, very cold? Like I got your email for somewhere, or they need to sign up for that?
Best case, of course, people are signing up on your newsletter. They're, signing up and opting into your emails. But there's other ways to get lists, and it just can take a long time if you do go the old-fashioned way of building people through your email list, which again can be or building people through a newsletter or something like that. That's of course great. It's of course great to reach out to people that are warmer, but there's a great opportunity through completely cold email outreach, which is what I focus on. And again, as long as you're following all the canned spam laws, making sure that you're being compliant, you're fine. It's just about doing it the right way.
Wow, it sounds so challenging just thinking about getting to a person who doesn't know you, who didn't sign up for anything, to pick your email from hundreds of emails and to really read that and to engage with that and do something related to that. It's like, wow, it's so hard.
Well, we met the CEO of MasterCard, Ajay Banga, one of the most successful business leaders really in the world. MasterCard became a client of my tech company, and they only became a client because we reached out to their CEO, Ajay Banga, who ended up hopping on multiple phone calls with my current co-founder. And then he ended up passing us to their team, and they ended up purchasing our product. And that was a cold email to Ajay Banga, the CEO of one of the greatest companies in the world, one of the busiest human beings in this world. Cold email worked for him. So if it can work for someone like Ajay Banga, it can work for anybody as long as you know how to do it and you do it right.
Okay. So what is your number one tip for leaders today?
Number one tip for leaders. I'm going to go back to just what I think is most important in terms of building trust is about just being genuine. If you're genuine, they'll relate to you. They'll have more empathy for you when you do well. They'll have more empathy for you when you don't do so well or when you make the mistakes that inevitably we will make. So that's always for me is just how do I bring out my most genuine, authentic self every day, which is always a challenge as well. And that's my recommendation for anybody, whether you're rising the ranks, you're a leader, anybody, is how do we just bring our most genuine, authentic self and our best self to the plate every day? Because if we do that, good things are going to happen for ourselves and for others around us.
Wow. Do you think it's more important for entrepreneurs or not?
To be genuine,
Yeah.
I
Because
think
it's only you and you. You need to fuel yourself. If you're not authentic, how would you do that? Right?
yeah, I think it's incredibly important for entrepreneurs. But I think it's important for anybody. I think just being genuine and being yourself is important for anybody. But yeah, for entrepreneurs, it is a long road. It's filled with a lot of bumps, a lot of hurdles, a lot of challenges, but it can be one of the most rewarding paths if you're true to the journey of entrepreneurship, which is not an easy thing. But if you can really
Yeah.
be true to it, accept the highs and more importantly, accept the lows that will inevitably come from it, it can be the most rewarding journey that any of us can take in our lives.
Yeah, I totally agree that resilience, maybe that's the word for entrepreneurs, is so important because they need to tackle so many things over the day. Maybe going from very very low point to very very high day, high point in the same day, which is so hard for most people. And it's like you need to do it as if your life depends on it, right? If
Mhm.
not, you will not be able to do so. So, do you think that being resilient or being more yeah being able to capable to be in that spot is really important in your life or not, or only as an entrepreneur?
One of my favorite quotes by George Washington, he said, perseverance and spirit have done wonders in all ages. So perseverance and spirit have done wonders in all ages. And it was written on my office wall when I had my tech company because it was so powerful to me and still is. And I think for entrepreneurs, if you can persevere through, again, those inevitable hurdles, while also keeping a good spirit and a good energy and not letting the dark side overcome you in those most difficult times that again will inevitably come on that journey, that's when you have the chance to really make something special out of being an entrepreneur. But I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care if you're, a single mother. I don't care if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I don't care what you do, who you are. In my opinion, if we can just buy into perseverance and spirit, and realize that it's done wonders in all ages forever, all of us will be better no matter what we do, no matter what our career is, no matter where we're at.
Yeah, I totally agree. So where could people hear more about your work and contact you? That's the last thing. Oh,
Uh,
and his name is Russell Brunson.
yes,
In the
Russell
end,
Brunson. Thank you.
I
Yeah, you
got it
got
in
it.
the end, right?
You got it. Good. Yeah, right before we signed off. So yeah, to learn more about what we do, you can go to eocworks.com. You can find me on Instagram at Adam I Rosen, Rosen. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's /Adam I Rosen. So those are the best places to find me. And then my email you can find in any of those areas. But if you reach out to me in one of those spots, you'll be able to get me.
Sure, I'll add some of these links to the chapter. So thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Adam, and lots of fun.
Yeah, no, thank you, Adi. Like I said in the beginning, I love the work that you're doing. I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun for me too.
Yeah, and I really hope that you should come to Israel, and I'll be your guide if you come. So you should.
For sure.
And
Next
we
time I
have
come to Israel.
yeah, and we have lots of good weather and good food, so it's a good start.
Yeah, the 3 days
So
I was there about 5 or 6 weeks ago was not nearly enough. So I'll take you up on that offer.
yay. Okay, and to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining me. If you want to learn more about what I do, go to invincibleinnovation.com, and I'll see you with another talk in about a week. See you. Bye bye. Yay. I'm Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.